Good morning and welcome to CM First webinar this morning. We're going to be talking about AI-powered test development with CM evolveIT. So our agenda, what we're going to cover today is a little bit about who we are as a company, what are the challenges around testing, how CM evolveIT can help you with the AI workbench solutions, and then we're going to provide a live demonstration, and we're going to take your questions. So if you have questions during the webinar, please go to the right sidebar to the questions section and enter those questions so that we can have those when we're ready for the question timing. All right, who are we? We're CM First Group. We do lots of modernization for customers. Many times that's going to be COBOL, CA2E, RPG for the IBMI. Also, we have many customers. Over the last 15 years, we've worked with 400 plus customers. So if you can name them, we've probably worked with them. And we have an end-to-end platform for legacy system analysis, business rules extraction, and automated code transformation. So on the right side there, you can see CM evolveIT has a number of capabilities. Impact analysis for those companies that are doing day-to-day development analysis, which includes call tree visualization, business rules extraction, and our AI workbench, which now provides lots of documentation ability and analysis for pretty much anything you would want. Also, we provide automated code transformation for customers and automatic documentation within the tool. So let's talk about the challenges of testing. We're all familiar with the process of testing. It's a very time-consuming process to define testing, to identify all the scenarios, and to get all the development, the test drivers, the test data, and everything in place. And it's very easy to have incomplete coverage. Typically, it's easy to think of the kind of the happy day scenarios, but the difficult edge cases are not always easy to identify. There are a lot of complex dependencies. It's usually beyond just the individual module, but the call tree level testing that needs to get done, where you're integrating a number of components. And then, of course, many of the original developers are no longer maybe working for the company, have retired, and the knowledge, the history is really gone. So having tools that help with this process can be really helpful. So there's a lot of hidden costs, right? If your testing is inadequate, the development time spent on testing could be very large, right? Using up the time that you could be building new functionality. Finding those defects, missed interactions late, the later in the project that you find them, the more costly they are. And if they get all the way to production, typical estimates are it's 10 times more expensive to solve those problems once they're already in production, and they can be very costly to the production process. So what is traditional test development? So you're going to have to review the code, understand the full call tree, review every path that you can identify within each program, document each one of those scenarios, in kind of a hand development approach. And then you have to create test data. You have to review all the copybooks and all the data that is actually used within each of the programs, looking for inputs and outputs and making sure that you've got all the coverage that you need. And then you're going to need a test driver. You're going to need, if it's a mainframe, you're going to need a JCL potentially to execute these processes to get the validation and testing done. And then you actually have to execute it and identify any issues. And then, of course, rerun. So you can see, on the right there, it can vary significantly, and it can take quite a long time depending on the size and scale of the group of code that you are testing. So obviously, in order to begin that process, you're going to look at what are the call tree, what is the program you're starting with, whether it's a top level or whether it's some mid or even low level program, And certainly we do testing on individual programs. Many times the integration testing can be just as important, and having all the programs in place that need to get tested together. So evolveIT provides a way to automate this process, particularly with its core base functionality that's all metadata based, right? We do deep parsing of code, and we have all that data in our database, and so we can easily find call tree information, data flow information, impacts of change, and all the cross reference that we need in order to identify all the components that need tested together. The AI workbench capability then can provide the AI generated test plans. Again, keep in mind, this is not a pure AI process in evolveIT. It is using AI over top of our deep metadata analysis. We believe this is very important because, as we all know, AI can hallucinate and even use information from outside your system if it's not constrained to the data within your system. It can provide the comprehensive test scenarios that you need, edge case identification, and even coverage for the business rules. The artifacts that we'll be looking at today are going to be test driver program, test data, execution scripts. We're also going to build a test plan, so we have all the definition of the tests that we want to execute. So in doing this process, you'll see in just a few minutes, we will build the information needed to run testing across a small group of programs. And with that, you can imagine the amount of time that can be saved compared to the numbers we looked at earlier. So we're talking about a significant percentage of development time that now is cut out of the testing process, and can make the testing go much faster and much more complete. So we're going to select a call tree, and we'll do this in just a moment live. We're going to do some analysis. We're actually going to create a grouping, kind of an asset group of that set of code. We're going to do some AI analysis to generate those artifacts, and then you can always interact with evolveIT and review and refine the results that you get. So the idea of coverage, right, is really important with testing, and finding again those edge cases, making sure you cover all the logic paths are critical to the full test of any unit or integration testing, and making sure that you have a consistent structured test, and in our case, auto-generated documentation. So let's jump into a demonstration and use evolveIT. Let's bring it up here. Oh, I guess I got my GoToMeeting in front, but we'll get to our dashboard here. Okay, so now we're looking at the dashboard front page of CM evolveIT. This provides us metrics and statistics about our application. You can see this application has a little under 800 programs. Because we're parsing code, we actually have statements rather than line counts. A little over 700, almost 800,000 lines, statements in this application. So a medium to small size application. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump right into a process of identifying the code that I want to work with. So I know the main program. Okay, I have it up here. So this is a 135 program that I'm going to work with. I'm going to use that program to identify all the other code that's related to this code. As you can see, there's a number of IO programs here. I happen to know what they do. They're just reading and writing data, so I'm not going to even include those in the tests. I'm going to focus on all the logic programs that have the test paths that I want to cover. And so I'm going to select my programs that I want to include in the testing. And so this is a calling program and subprograms, and then I can assign a group. And so I've got a test group here called Test Planning Webinar. I can click my Add to the group. And now I've got my group, and I can go to what we call the asset group where we built this. And now we've got our test webinar group. We can see that group of code here that's been included within this particular asset group. In order to begin our process, we're going to go to our AI conversation to get to our AI workbench. Again, we see all the code involved. I'm going to select all that code, and I'm going to move into a prompt here that I'm going to load in order to do this process. And at this point, all I have to do is click Analyze Source. So I've got the prompt, I've got all the source code. As you can see how quickly, using evolveIT, I can identify the source code that I want to work with. I can group that code for my small project. I can then go into the asset grouping of code and use that group of code to get to the AI workbench. Once I'm here, I can just kick off my test development prompt. This prompt is going to look at every single program. It's going to begin to process all of those, building a test case, and you can see the test cases getting built. Test the table of test cases. Every program will be listed, and now we're actually into building a test driver program. So that quickly, we've been able to build all the test cases. We're building a test driver, in this case, a COBOL program. And now we're got an explanation. At this point, it's ready to generate test data. So I'm just going to drop into chat mode and tell it to proceed. Great misspelling. All right. So we can make that request and we take the next step. So this can be very interactive. You can see it's generating multiple test data files. It's actually created them in that black box so that you can easily copy that test data result in JSON off the screen. And now we have all those test data files that we need. Each one of those providing test data that is required for this test. If I back up, I can also see the code for the COBOL driver program, and then we see all the test cases that will be run for each of the programs in order to test them. All right, so the summary, right? We got a test driver program, JSON, JCL. I think actually we're going to need to generate that JCL still. Oh, no, it actually did it. So there's the JCL. We've also got the JCL generated and the test results. And so I'm just going to ask it to provide full documentation of this test scenario. So going through that process, it's going to document everything that we've got, the objectives, call tree overview, all the pieces of that information now I'm going to have in a document with a summary that I can work with. Okay, that went pretty quick. Let's kind of overview a little bit of the process. I'm going to go back to evolveIT and cover maybe one other thing. Let me jump out of chat mode here. I'm going to also look at some of the other prompts we have. We've got the business rules prompts options. We've got explaining source. We can kind of explain source from a COBOL paragraph perspective. Lots of different options in here for field length and data lineage analysis, JCL source analysis. All those different pieces are available. All right. Once we have built the testing information, we've got everything we need in order to do the testing. And as I mentioned, you're just going to pull those results right off the screen and be able to run those test cases. All right, let's go back to our slides. All right, I guess the question are there any questions? We're ready for our Q&A. I'm gonna check and look for questions that are out there. I don't see any right now. I can cover a couple of questions that typically come up in these webinars, and that would be a question about, how would I get you CM evolveIT, right? What are the options for how I could bring it into my company? One of those is we have a cloud instance that we can provide to customers. If you have a set of code and your company is interested in getting started, we can do a proof of concept or a full implementation in the cloud and make that available to you as your company. That will give you the AI analysis capability through the cloud. It is an individual instance. The other option would be an on-premises implementation. That means you set up your own server, and then you have to determine, do I want to use cloud AI or do I want to have a local model that I want to use? And so there's, some of those kinds of decisions to be made. But, those are both possible using CM evolveIT. We would normally then take you through a process of getting your database created in evolveIT, review that database with you to make sure we all agree it's complete, and then we would complete a training process with you to make sure everyone is fully knowledgeable of how to use evolveIT. And we even include typically follow-up sessions for Q&A and tips and tricks during that training time. And then, of course, we're going to provide full support. We meet with a number of our customers on a weekly basis to make sure they have everything they need, their database is complete and accurate, and any questions are answered on a regular basis. So we're here, we're ready to work with you. If you have either modernization, testing, or day-to-day analysis needs, give us a call. You can email us at info@cmfirstgroup.com. See more information at our website, cmfirstgroup.com. I thank you very much for joining the webinar and ask that you have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.